Hi Year 3, welcome to today's reading session. Today is Wednesday. Let's make a start. Today I'd like you to have a go at reading this piece of text using expression. Have a go. Pause the video. Can you remember which Viper skill we're looking at? That's right, we're looking at vocabulary. We're looking at the words that the author has used. This is our checkpoint. Leon looked at the powerful magician and gobbledygook happily. Which of these words can it not be, and why? Waved, smiled, amazing. Pause the video. That's right, it couldn't be amazing. It said gobbledygook happily. Happily ends in ly. It's an adverb. That means it needs to describe a verb. Waved and smiled are both verbs because they are a doing word. Let's look at our tricky words today. I've taken these from the Year 3 and 4 word list. Let's say them together. Appear, complete, surprise. To help you with your spelling of appear, you'll notice that I've put it into two parts, ap and ear. That helps us with our spelling of the word. Let's look at our next one. Disappear. Let's say it together. Disappear. What's the root word? You're right, it's appear. We've added the prefix dis onto it. Let's look at our last word. Cheered. Can you say it with me? Cheered. We've added our ed suffix on the end, but we haven't had to make any changes because we can hear the long vowel sound of e inside our word before we end with our consonant. Let's look at our words that will be in the text. I'm going to say them first. Can you say them afterwards? Lurched, blossomed, fluttering, solemn. Something that's solemn is quite formal. Usually they're not smiling or that cheerful. Can you have a go at practicing your words? Can you say them, shout them, whisper them, clap them, act them, and maybe use them in a sentence? Let's find out what happens in the next part of Leon and the Place Between. Leon and the Place Between by Graham Baker Smith. Let the magic begin. I don't believe in magic, said Tom as he settled on the grass in the show tent. Around him, the crowd waited impatiently for something to happen. It's not real, hissed Pete. It's only tricks. Little Mo looked disappointed. Shh, now, whispered their brother Leon. It will be magic. You have to believe. Look, it's going to begin. The lanterns went out. In the darkness, the crowd fidgeted with excitement. There was a cough, a whisper, and then a loud hush. At last, a soft blue glow lit the stage, and the curtains twitched. With a ripple of gold braid, the curtains slowly parted. Bang! 3 jugglers tumbled onto the stage to the pounding beat of a drum. Skittles flew, fast and furious, back and forth, up and over. Tambourines rattled, loud and louder. Skittles spun, high and higher. The jugglers twisted, fast and faster. Then bang! The skittles went up, but they didn't come down. Everybody cheered and clapped. The jugglers bowed and bounced away. Once more, there was only darkness. Now one dim spotlight found a barrel organ, still and silent on the stage. Everyone held their breath. The handle began to turn, but there was no hand upon it. Note by note, The tinkling song of a carousel started to dance from the pipes. Up jumped a barrel organ monkey, all made of wood and tiny hinges. He beckoned the moon to light the mechanical toys. A red-eyed crocodile snapped at a running boy's heel. A ballerina turned on her pink satin shoe. Painted animals paraded into the ark, and a flying machine lurched through the air, up, up, and over the moon. At last, the barrel organ fell silent. No one stirred. For a moment, the tiny creaks of the mechanical toys cast their own spell. Then they slowed, jerked awkwardly, and were still. The solemn monkey took a stiff bow, and the curtains closed to loud applause. "Now," said Leon, edging forward in the dark. "Now, it's going to happen." Outside in the night, an owl hooted. With a swish, the curtains opened. Poof! A cloud of purple smoke filled the stage. And there he was, Abdul-Kazam! Sparks flew from his fingertips. Leon could smell the magic. "Trust nothing," said Abdul-Kazam, "but believe everything." He threw his arms into the air, and the magic began. Paper flowers blossomed from his sleeves. Silk scarves changed colour at a whispered word. Water poured into a hat turned into night air. Bright white handkerchiefs became fluttering doves. The crowd was amazed. Then Abdul-Kazam stepped aside, and there was a door into a box. "Who will step into the magic?" Leon knew it had to be him. He stepped up to the stage and climbed into the box. There was a gasp from little Mo, and the door shut behind him. You're going to need an exercise book to write in. If you haven't got one, ask your grown-up to collect one from the school office. This week we've been focusing on vocabulary. It's my turn now. I've written down some words and phrases that interest me from the text. I found "with a swish." I've taken it from this part of the story. Outside in the night an owl hooted. With a swish the curtains opened. For Chili 2, you're going to need to explain why you like that phrase or word. I like "with a swish" because I can imagine the curtain making this sound as it opens. I also like "sparks flew from his fingertips." Why do you think those words interest me? Have a think. Discuss with maybe someone in your house. Complete my Chili 2 sentence. I like "sparks flew from his fingertips because." I'm sure you've come up with lots of great ideas at home. This is my sentence. I like "sparks flew from his fingertips because it shows me how magical Abdul-Kazam is. These are your chilies for today. If you're a Chili 1, you're going to listen to the story again and write down 3 words or phrases that interest you. I'd like you to draw a picture to match the word or phrase. So, for example, you can see I've done the red-eyed crocodile snapping. For Chili 2, I'd like you to explain why you like that word or phrase. I'm expecting to see the conjunction because in your writing. If you're Chili 3 today, I'd like you to reflect on the story so far. Are there any improvements that you'd make to the text? Perhaps you'd add a different adjective or some further description to the story. When you've finished your work, come back to the video and we'll share some reading time together. Remember, today I'm expecting you to take part in Book Babble, where you go and read and then tell someone about what you've been reading about afterwards. www.oxfordowl.co.uk is also a great resource where you can download free ebooks to enjoy. Right, let's read the next part of Fizzlebert's Stump. Maybe we'll find out why those children were laughing at him yesterday.
Oh, smashing. We'll come find you tomorrow afternoon after school. That's cool. When you get here, just ask anyone where I am. They'll be able to find me. What's your name then? Oh, yes, sorry, I didn't say. I'm Fizzlebert, but everyone just calls me Fizz. Fizz held out his hand to shake, but the kids just looked at him. Fizzlebert? The children, who a moment before had been in awe of Fizz, amazed at his stunt with the lion and hanging on his every word, now burst out laughing. What is it? He asked, surprised at the sudden jollity. He wondered if there was a joke he had missed. Your name's Fizzlebert, the tallest boy asked. Really? Fizz all Bert? Yes, said Fizzlebert cautiously. That's the most stupid name I've ever heard. It's just plain silly. Ridiculous. Stupid, stupid, stupid. Who ever heard of a boy called Fizzlebert? Fizz was shocked. He didn't know what to say. They'd seemed so nice, these kids. They'd been interested in him, and they wanted to be his friend. But now everything had changed. Instead of looking at him as if he were brilliant, they were looking at him as if he was something disgusting someone else had trodden in. It's never much fun on your own shoe, but if you're mean-spirited and unpleasant, then it's very funny when it happens to someone else. One of the boys did a little twirling dance like a not very good ballerina, singing, Fizzlebert, Twizzlebert, Twizzlebert, Fizzlebert, over and over again in a silly squeaky voice. All his friends laughed even harder at his dance, and as he spun round, the elder of the two girls slapped him on the back and sent him lurching giddily into the gang, and they all fell over. Fizz secretly hoped they'd hurt themselves, but they were up on their feet quick enough, brushing themselves down and wandering off into the darkness, still singing out his name and things that sounded a bit like his name, and laughing. Maybe you've got a friend to go complain to when bullies pick on you like that, but Fizzlebert Stump didn't. Really, he didn't want to go and tell any of his grown-up friends, because they were forever playing tricks and practical jokes on each other, calling each other rude names and generally taking the mickey. They wouldn't think Fizz being teased by some kids from the town would be a big deal. But actually, he felt pretty rotten. He sat back down on the steps of his caravan, with his dinosaur book shut on his lap. He had kept his thumb in his place just in case he wanted to read some more, and moped. The sea lion, Fish, honked and waddled his way over and sat beside him, with his head resting on Fizz's lap. He wore a spangly silver sequined waistcoat, and had long thick whiskers sticking out either side of his nose, which were glittery to match. He gazed up at Fizz with enormous brown eyes. They were what anyone with a heart would call endearing. They always looked like they were about to cry, but never quite did, and had thick eyelashes that fluttered. They made you want to share things, especially, Fish hoped, fish. They were eyes filled with a certain sort of love, the love that is called cupboard love. Fish was a sort of friend to everyone at the circus, whether you lived there or were just visiting, so long as you had fish in your pockets. Fizzlebert didn't have any fish in his pockets, and so after a few minutes, Fish waddled off to look for someone who did, but not before letting out a most moist, fishy burp right in Fizz's face. Just then, a voice called his name from inside the caravan. He recognised the voice immediately. It was his mum. She was leaning out of the caravan doorway, looking at him sat below her on the steps. She was halfway through washing her face. The left half was still painted, the right half was clean, and she held a damp sponge in her hand. If you've never seen a clown halfway in or out of his or her makeup, then I must say it's a weird sight. You know what a clown looks like, yes? And you know what a normal person looks like? Well, stick half of one face next to half of the other face, and you'll see what I mean. Odd. Fizz, she called. Yes, Mum. What was all that noise just now? It sounded like voices. It was just some kids, Mum, Fizz said. Some kids, Mum? What did she want? No, not some kids, Mum. Some kids, Mum. That's what I said, darling, she said, not really paying attention to his punctuation. What did she want? We're not the lost child desk. Did you tell her where it was? When Fizz's mum had taken off her clown makeup and costume, she stopped being funny. In fact, she was quite a serious woman most of the time. Not too serious to laugh, but serious enough to know that not everything is a joke. But right now, with her makeup half on and half off, Fizz couldn't tell if she was trying to be funny or not. No, Mum, it wasn't anyone's mum. It was just a bunch of kids who saw me and came over. Oh, what did they want? Did you tell them that this isn't the lost property desk? They didn't want the lost property desk, Mum. They came and said how good they thought the lion trick was this evening. Oh, did you and Charles do your act tonight? Yes, Mum. Didn't you see it? Oh no, I was trying to put the collapsing clown car back together ready for the finale. You know how much trouble I have with that. Oh, said Fizz. He was a little upset that his mum hadn't watched his death-defying stunt with the lion. Of course, he knew she'd seen it before, and of course they both knew it wasn't actually death-defying on account of the rubber false teeth, but all the same, he felt a little deflated. Any normal mum would have watched her son put his head in a lion's mouth and be proud, wouldn't she? Any normal mum would have stuck up for her son when he was being teased. But he had the feeling that if he had come out when she'd heard the noise and told the kids off for calling him names and taking the mickey, they'd have laughed at her even more than they'd laughed at him. When a clown tries to be strict, it always looks funny. People always laugh, and those kids would have been rolling on the ground, clutching their sides, pointing at her and at him. And knowing her, she would have thought they were laughing because they thought she was funny. But there are two ways of being funny, of making people laugh. One is by doing funny things on purpose, telling a joke or being part of a comedy routine. And the other is having people think you look ridiculous. They were plain mean kids, it had turned out, and his mum would have just embarrassed him even more. If only he had a normal mum who dressed in normal clothes that he could be seen in public with without everyone staring and pointing. But she loved being a clown. He knew it meant a lot to her. They liked the show? She asked. Yes, I think so, he said. They thought you were good? Yeah, they thought I was good, yeah. Did they mention the clowns? The clowns? He asked. Yes, did they mention us? Well, we didn't really talk for very long. Oh, well, I expect they liked the clowns, she decided, pleasing herself. Probably, he said. Well, Fizzlebert, his mother said, I'm glad you're making friends. Then she was gone, back inside. Friends? Fizz said to himself with a sort of grumbly sigh noise. Best spelled something like harumph, but pronounced however you like. Not much later he went to bed himself, filled with the last little bits of excitement left over from the evening's show, but with much more of the disappointment he'd got from those kids. Meeting them had been more exciting than the audience roaring, and when they'd gone away, why, that was crushing. He actually felt crushed. And why had they gone? They'd gone, Fizz thought to himself as he lay in bed, because he had a silly name. He just wished he was normal. Why did he have to live in a stupid circus? And those were the thoughts rattling round his head as sleep finally overtook him and almost brought this chapter to an end. First, there's a tiny flashback. Just before he went in for the night, he stood up and stretched and noticed something on the ground where the kids had all fallen over when that boy had done his silly dance. It was a book. Fizzlebert liked books, and so, in case it rained and the book got ruined, he took it indoors with him. Now the chapter ends. There we go. That's it. It's stopped now.
Well done for working so hard today, Year 3. Remember, if you need an exercise book, ask your grown-up to go to the school office to get one for you.